Wow. So plant-based is having to work from home for 4 weeks right now. Holy doodle. Well, I'm glad you're safe. That's the important thing, right? And hopefully you're healthy. Hopefully you're not quarantined because you're actually sick. Hopefully you're healthy and you're quarantined for protection. As we look at the introduction to iridology, we need to do this because we, I'm going to do that too. So let me turn, there we go. Because there are so many different styles of iridology out there, and they are not all created equal. Just saying, they are not all created equal. And so today our focus is going to be on introducing you on a deeper level to constitutional iridology. And Matt has joined us on Instagram. Thanks, Matt. And Val is in Devon, England. I was in Devon 10 years ago. I know where Devon is. Castle Devon and all that good stuff. Yeah, coolio. Love to go back. Okay, so we are going to, again, be looking at constitutional iridology. It is the most scientifically validated and up-to-date form of iridology out there. It has not clung on to old information and old tenets. So just stay with me as we do this little introduction. Hi, Katie. Thanks for joining us on Instagram. The questions we are going to answer today, and some of these might seem really rudimentary if you've been looking at iridology for length of time, but first off, what is iridology? So many people still don't know what it is. We're going to talk about what it can teach us and how should it be used. So those are the three questions we are going to answer today. So first off, what is iridology? All right, iridology is pronounced iridology, not iridology. All right, and iridology, it's the iris of the eye, it's not the ear. So it's iridology. So that's an important thing to start with. If you call it iridology, it's going to lead to confusion. So it's iridology. Iris is spelled I-R-I-S. We're going to do that. Oh dear. Okay, just a moment. There we go. Yeah. All right. So that's the first thing. Primarily, modern iridologists study the iris of the eye. And what we are looking for as we look at the iris of the eye is we are looking for patterns. We're looking for things, colors that we see in here, variations in the color. We're looking for how the fibers are sitting in the eye. But we're looking, as iridologists, we're looking at the iris of the eye primarily. Now, modernly, we have also expanded to include the study of the sclera, which is the white of the eye. Now, why did we do that? Well, the iris itself shows us inherent potentials, right? It shows us, depending on the type of marking we're seeing, information going back 3 to 4 generations, or current right now, what you've earned in your own body. Oh my goodness, okay. And so as we look at that, we needed something that was actually more dynamic, something that was more fluid. And that's where the iris comes in, because the iris changes very rapidly. You know that. If you've ever cried for a length of time and ended up with all your eyes totally bloodshot, all those capillaries just activated and everything looking red, and then you were able to calm down and whatever the crisis averted, and you calm down, an hour later you look at your eyes and they're no longer red. Right? So you know the sclera is highly reactive. So when we look at the iris, we're looking at inherent potential. We are looking at things that you've earned or things that are activated in the body now. And those markings they can change in certain ways. We talk about that in another episode. But the sclera is very dynamic. And we see things like this popping up. They give us information about what's going on in the body now. And sometimes it's even a preclinical thing. So this is giving us warning that something is building. And if we get in there and we do the right kind of work, we can often tame these down and calm them down, right? And that's a good thing, because that means problem averted. Today, again, our focus is, of course, the iris, because we're introducing iridology. The iris, again, and I've said this 2 or 3 times, so I'm going to keep repeating it. Oh, and Joan is a nurse in Wyoming. Yes. I know where Wyoming is. I've gone through there many times. I've got a friend, my best friend was born in Wyoming, and so were many of my aunts and uncles. Very cool. Okay, so when we look at the iris teaches us about inherent predispositions. So again, it's what has been inherited. It tells us, this eye in particular that we are looking at right now, tells us that this person is predisposed, inherently predisposed to spending a lot of time in the sympathetic nervous system. So that means that this person is always primed and on the edge, waiting for the next crisis. They live in the fight, flight, or freeze zone. They are rarely totally peaceful and totally tranquil. That takes effort for them. And so when we see this kind of a thing with all of these markings coming around here that are saying fight, flight, or freeze, this person is going to need some adrenal support because they're always living in that heightened reaction field, right? They're always literally ready for the next shoe to drop. Think of these as being people who might be what we might lovingly call drama queens. This client in particular came to me because she had some specific symptoms. She's also inherently predisposed to having her liver run the show, which is what the color in here tells us. When the liver's running the show, we know that she's going to be more prone to some immune symptoms. She might have some blood symptoms. She might have some energy issues. Hi Katie, good to see you again. And we've got 2 Katies with us, yes. She might be prone to allergies, hormonal issues, and digestive issues. All of those things are connected to liver, right? So when we do iridology, we're not looking at one marker, one thing. We're looking at one marker. Actually, we're looking at 2 or 3 markers. How do they react together? How do they together tell us the story of why the client has what they're experiencing, the symptom? So iridology actually teaches us what questions to ask. This client particularly came into me. She's in her 60s, and she came into me with recurring bladder infections and allergies. That the allergies had been kind of ramping up in the last decade. Her eyes suggest that she has that predisposition to allergies and to infections because, again, her liver may not want to do its job properly. And so that means that on that constitutional level, we've got to hit the liver constitutionally. We can't work at it on a surface level. So to give her a herb that is just for immune is a Band-Aid. To give her a herb that works at the liver level is more of a constitutional solution for her. So again, we want to make sure that we work constitutionally. We may need to give her a Band-Aid remedy as well, right? If she's currently sick, and she's been getting sick every month for the last year, we might need to do something on the surface, but we absolutely have to go to that deeper level and work on the liver with her in particular. Same when it comes to even working the allergies, but jumping back to the immune, golden seal, for instance, is a bitter herb that works with getting the liver back on track, but it also has a spillover to the immune. And so we may want to do something simple like golden seal, as long as her blood sugars are good. So we need to know about the person. We need to be able to ask them questions to make sure that we are headed in the right direction. Constitutional iridology never, ever, 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 did I underscore that enough times, never enables us to diagnose a disease. So we can't look at this eye and say, you have disease X, Y, Z. We cannot do that. The eyes only show us where the inherent potentials are. And from there, we need to ask questions to understand what's going on in the body. Actually, a first appointment with me looks like this. Client comes in, we do the initial greeting, and then I ask, what would you like my help with? They give me what I call the shopping list. And sometimes it'll be just one thing that they want to have resolved. Sometimes it's 5 or 6 things. And I write them down. What I've learned is the first thing they've mentioned is the one that is most significant to them, that they want to have resolved the soonest. So I get that list, and then I take photos of their eyes. And then I consider the eyes in light of what the client wants help with. And when I put those 2 things together, it helps me to understand what questions I need to ask. And it helps me to understand on a deeper level the kinds of things I'm going to need to do to help this person achieve their health goals. So when we are doing constitutional iridology, it is a guide for us for where issues may be, inherent issues may be, and it guides our questions, and it may inform our suggestions. If I saw certain other markings in this eye, I would be reluctant to use golden seal as that liver immune support. I would want to go another direction. Maybe I would go with cat's claw instead, for instance. With this client, and we're going to do a few analyses here to show you, to introduce you to iridology. And I can't even say some of these names, but thanks for being with me on Instagram. Lika Slila, that's quite an interesting handle. And Seja, it's good to see you too. Thanks for being there. This person is predisposed, inherently predisposed to constipation and poor energy production, and her eyes tell me that. However, we don't tell the client, you are predisposed to this, unless we have a reason to. So again, I would always ask, what is your first concern? What are your concerns? What do you want my help with? Now, this client had actually been doing a pretty good job with her diet. She didn't have a problem with constipation. She'd already figured out what she needed to do with her food before she came to see me. What we did find with her is that her energy was a little bit iffy. And so that means that while her diet was quite good, while she was not constipated, she was still not digesting her food thoroughly in order to be able to assimilate the nutrients. So we decided that what she really needed, as we discussed things, was she needed a digestive aid. She actually had no gut symptoms, but she needed that digestive aid. And that was going to help her break her foods down more effectively, to make it easier for her actually assimilate the nutrients. And when she could assimilate the nutrients, her energy would begin to come up. That's exactly what we saw. Her eyes also suggest another predisposition. And this one is to allergies, particularly allergies that affect the mucous membranes. And so when one of her concerns was that she had seasonal allergies. Spring and fall are awful for her. And so when we saw her eyes, it was like, well, we understand why. So we needed to do a little more work with her diet. And that in this case meant cutting out dairy products and reducing her grain consumption. And now, I saw her many years ago, but now I would probably add a high quality collagen supplement to her, because that does a lot of work on the gut as well. So constitutionally, even though she's got no gut symptoms, when we go in through the gut to help complete the digestion and add some liver support for the allergies, while we make the mucous membranes more comfortable and more patent, and we used a mucilaginous formula for her back then, that was what worked for her. She found that as long as she did those things, that her seasonal allergies totally calmed down, which was absolutely brilliant. Here again, we have another client, woman in her mid-50s, who suffers with hot flashes, suffers desperately with hot flashes. She has her diet figured out really quite well, and she's got a very holistic lifestyle, but she really said she wanted to get rid of the hot flashes. That was the thing that was messing up her life right now. So as I look at her eyes, I see indications that she burns through her B vitamins and vitamin C very, very quickly. So I needed to ask her about her nervous system, right? Because the B vitamins and vitamin C feed the nervous system. And so, and if the B's and the C's are not where they belong, and if she's under a lot of stress, her adrenals are going to be stressed, and she's going to be in that sympathetic response zone. Remember, we talked about that with another client, where this tells us she lives in that sympathetic response zone. And so as we talked about those things, one of the questions was, do your symptoms get worse when you're under stress? And she said, absolutely yes. And so I asked her, what does she do to handle her stress? And she has a really great lifestyle. She's really good with the self-care, which is absolutely brilliant. She also has some strong indications that her liver wants to not be great. The first thing that we notice is that she's got pigment that tells us that liver wants to mess things up. But we've also got a bit of an arc in here, this milky arc, that suggests that she has problems handling her carbs, and that she may be then inefficient in creating her cholesterol properly, and that may be creating some issues for her. So the first thing that I always do when I'm working with a woman who is having hot flashes, especially when I can see that they've got that liver predisposition, Carolina, thank you for joining us on the webinar. Good to see you there. The first thing I do in this situation is I look at her diet. What in her diet, which was again really pretty good, what in her diet could be stressing her liver? Well, she had 1 cup of coffee a day. Ladies, if you have hot flashes, coffee is the first thing to go. And for 95% of my clients, it solves the hot flashes right up front. So that's your bonus tip for today. So my recommendation was to give up coffee for 10 days to see how it changed things for her. Didn't yet say give it up entirely. I just said for 10 days. She did that, huge improvement, like hot flashes pretty much gonzo, down to where she had a couple of warm waves in a day. But when she came in for her follow-up appointment, she said, you know what? I love my coffee. I love the ritual I've built around the coffee. And so I'm not going to give it up. What else can you do? And the answer is nothing. That's like saying you've got a nail in your shoe and you want me to take care of your foot pain, but you don't want to take the nail out of your shoe, right? And so there's nothing that will override coffee. And I've proven it time and time again. And I had to be blunt with her and say, I can't do anything. Coffee is messing you up. And if you're not willing to give up the coffee, there is nothing else I can do. She was on hormone replacement therapy when she came in and it wasn't even working. Well, I'm here to tell you, if a drug's not going to work to control the situation, the herbs can't do it either when we've got coffee in the way, right? So the caffeine was absolutely stressing her adrenals. It was depleting her B vitamins. We could add B vitamins till we're blue in the face. And it's not going to have the impact she wants it to have because she's not willing to get rid of the coffee. Is this making sense? When we use iridology, when we use constitutional iridology, we use it specifically to guide our questions. And Katie's asking, does decaf make a difference? For most women, no. For most women, between that bit of caffeine and the acid levels of the coffee, it's enough to throw the liver way out of balance. So my best suggestion is go without. If you've got hot flashes, go without, see what happens. And after 10 days of being without, then try the decaf and see what happens. But my experience has been coffee, it's coffee, it's coffee, and it's not going to help the cause at all. So when we use constitutional iridology, we are using it to guide our questions, to create rapport between us and our clients, and to inform our recommendations. Right? That's what this is all about. It's not about giving our clients these massive long lists of every marker we see, this massive long list of everything that means for what the problems are, and then a companion long list of all of the things they need to do. I'm here to tell you, with my 40 years of experience in this industry as a herbalist, nutritionist, and iridologist, I am here to tell you that when you give your clients long lists like that, they will fail every time. Every time. Because they can't make that many changes all at once. So what I'd like to do, with your permission, is just not even a sales pitch, but just let you know that the next go round of Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, which starts on April 16th and April 17th, is now accepting registrations. I will tell you that this is the only live, online, 40-hour, we do it 22-hour classes, fully mentored course for nutritionists, herbalists, and naturopaths who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care, right? Because too many holistic practitioners spend too much of their time outside of their paid client time creating programs for their clients. I'm not going to give you any more course details right now because that's not why you joined me today, but I am going to just let you know that on Thursday, April 2nd, I am doing an info webinar, and in that webinar, hi Stay3318, good to see you on Instagram. In that webinar on April 2nd, 5 to 6:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, which I know is miserable for those of you in England. My apologies. Not so bad for North America, not so bad for Australia. In that webinar, I will give you all of the details like who should take the course, how will this course benefit you in your professional business, in your professional practice, how is iridology used? We'll do another case study or two. We'll talk about what's included, what is the tuition, how do you register? And so if you want to register to attend that webinar, go to bit.ly/iridology course info and get signed up there. And that will keep you in the loop for this webinar that's coming up, where you can get all of the information about the course. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope that little introduction, that little demonstration of how to use iridology, how it's used best in a clinical practice, streamline your course, your protocol outlines, has been helpful to you, and has maybe, if you're new to iridology and you're looking at taking an iridology class and you're not understanding how it works, hopefully this has taken some of the fear out and giving you some understanding so that you will forge forward and consider taking the next course when it comes up. So with that, again, thank you so much for being with me. And I hope you'll join me again Friday. The beautiful thing about these onlines, right, is that it doesn't matter if you're quarantined. In fact, maybe it's better because maybe there's fewer interruptions. But it's great that we can do this worldwide and do it in spite of. Shanaz says, thank you so much for your time. Oh, you're so welcome, Shanaz. It's always good to see you here. And we will see you again Friday, same time, same place. And if you've joined me on the webinar, you'll be getting an email with the registration link for it for Friday as well, so that you can join me for that one. And if you want to know what the topic is on Friday, Friday is a juicy one. Friday we are doing, especially for you practitioners, Friday we are going to be answering business questions about using iridology in business. So deeper than what we did today. So, you know, join me and feel free on that one to comment and ask questions. I'll be thinking about your questions about business and iridology, because I've got a list of 7 questions that I'm going to answer. But if you've got questions that aren't included in that 7, I'm happy to consider answering them for you. So look forward to seeing you Friday. Have a really good week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you on Friday. Bye for now.